going on?
All right, I've got it written down.
Thank you, sir.
All righty. Call the meeting to order. Nina, please take the roll.
Councilman Bundy,
Present.
Councilman Brennan,
Present.
Councilman McCain,
Present.
Councilman Stokes,
Present.
Mayor Sykes.
Present. Let the record reflect that we do have a quorum for tonight's city council meeting, October 13th, 2020. Run down to item number 2 on the agenda, recognizing persons in the audience, and have a comment for a maximum of 3 minutes. Anybody like to come down and talk for 3 minutes? Anybody outside there, chief?
Nobody.
All righty, ladies in the audience, want to get up to speak? Okay. Run down to item number 3, council comments. Councilman, you got anything for us? All right, run down to item number 4, the consent agenda. We'll go start with M. Go ahead, Mr. Yurkey.
Just council mayor, Mr. Mulberry would like to change this instead of a 30-year lease, 20-year lease to a 30-year lease. It is going to be a brand new hangar. So I think he was just trying to do some stuff tax-wise to make it be able to pencil out over what 30 years was. So, I mean, I have no problem with that out there. And so it's just putting it out there if you guys wanted to change that.
Mr. Mayor. Councilman Buddy.
Yeah, if he's willing to put the investment into a new hangar, and it eases his financing, and then he's got a better idea that we're on board for 30 years for his lease. Would we just have to pull it and redo it, or could we just annotate that we're changing the lease on the consent agenda to 30 years as opposed to 20?
You can annotate it.
Okay, so I just recommend we annotate it with the rest of the council's thoughts.
I'll agree.
I'll agree.
Mayor,
Councilman Brennan.
I have a question on that for the attorney. Is that like transferable to somebody else? If 30 years is a long time, so I guess we just don't know.
That's the terms of the lease. It would have to be in the lease itself. It's usually towards the bottom of it, whether it's quote unquote assignable.
Okay.
And then I don't recall off the top of my head.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead,
we
Nina.
have done that in the past. When somebody sells their hangar, we assign the lease to the next person that buys the hangar, and there is an assignment in
There
the
is.
lease document.
And that's our standard practice.
Yes.
Okay.
And that comes back to you when we do the assignment.
Oh.
It comes back to you to approve the assignment to the next
Okay.
person.
So it's not automatic. It has
No.
to be approved. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Go ahead.
No, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Councilman, do you have anything you want to talk about, pull, or are you good with the consent agenda as Brennan?
Mayor,
Councilman Brennan?
just a couple of comments. For the downtown beautification agreements, I've kind of brought this up in the past. So one thing I'd like to point out is that I just like to read it really quick. So I'm just starting in the middle, and if you want to follow along, you can, but just, it says, this is basically to provide financial assistance for certain approved projects and improvements to the exterior buildings in the downtown area. And that's the key, the downtown area, that will beautify and revitalize the downtown area, and herein provided legal words. So I know that the way we do things is kind of backwards, where the citizen that applies for this is assuming that it's already been approved or that it will likely be approved. And I think it's kind of it could lead to a problem if they are assuming that they're going to get the up to $500. Is that right? 500. And then for whatever reason, the council doesn't agree with it, which hasn't happened yet. The council doesn't agree with it, and then they don't get the money that they were expecting or counting on for their own financial pocket. And so with that, I also believe that we need to define our downtown area, because I talked to Brock really quick, and the map that was presented to us here today is specifically for a downtown parking overlay map. And that's not the definition of our downtown, but we don't, from what I think you told me, we don't have a definition of our downtown. And I think we need it. If we're handing out money, taxpayers' money to private business or private enterprise, the council should be on the same page, knowing where that money can go to, because the further we get away from downtown, at some point we have to draw a line and say that's not part of this project. That's not the Imagine Mountain Home or the downtown project as a whole. And so with your approval, with the council's approval, I'd like to ask if we can ask Brock to kind of tweak that a little bit and put in a downtown definition for this plan and maybe some terms of conformity where we just creating a beautiful downtown mountain home. And if I don't see us regulating with a private business with their own funds, but if they're using city funds, I think there should be a lack of a better term, a platform in which the design standards flow, so that we don't put a Band-Aid on a brand new project. And so I'm asking for a lot, and I know I'm saying a lot of words, but if the council mayor could direct Brock to tweak our Imagine Mountain Home ordinance so that one, there's a definition for downtown and some conformity standards. And there was one other point I was going to make, but I forgot it at the moment.
Councilman Bundy?
I agree. I think that we should have a defined area for this. So Brock, I agree that we should know exactly what the boundaries are of this project. And then if we could look at the standards of the project, I think that's fine. Come to some generic rules or ideas. And I know we had this discussion before. We didn't want to get too into the weeds on it, but I do like the idea of a defined area and then maybe some generic rules on what we're looking for with these types of projects. I think that's a good idea.
I agree with you, Daniel, 100%. So are you saying the red is the overlay, but then if I do the blue, is that considered the downtown as well? What is your definition of downtown?
Mayor, I believe that's a definition that I would probably base somewhat off of our parking overlay so that there's some continuity. But as Daniel mentioned, what is in there only pertains to parking standards. And staff wanted to say that staff has no problem doing this. I think it's a good idea having a definition of this is where we draw the line. And also, if the city has just invested millions of dollars into our downtown, I know that's important to you, Mayor, that things do conform. And I believe if something's going to be subsidized with taxpayer dollars, that it should meet a certain kind of standard. When I was in Twin Falls, they did have design standards for their historic downtown. It's something that we can do in baby steps, but still hope to maintain a very fine product that conforms to the amount of effort that has already been put in. So in short, Mayor, staff has no problem. What staff would research, it would probably be very similar to the downtown parking overlay of what we would define. But staff would be open to any recommendations from this body, any recommendations from the public of what they consider downtown. I believe that's sort of fluid, and I would want your direction on how to proceed.
Okay. And Rich, you had
I had a question. I think it's a good idea. I like this. I know one thing kind of on that, that the downtown master plan did have to, after we kind of got things
Right.
going, to put some stuff together for ordinances downtown of what we can accept, and blade signs and things like that we need to get put in ordinance. Kind of some history with the Dig It piece, or Imagine Mountain Home. Probably the farthest we've gone is Lucky Perk. That was about the farthest one we've really gone, away from the downtown spot with some of the with the money. So I think just, we're looking at a couple blocks, past Third. URA does include Third, so if we want to I think that some of that corridor of American Legion would be important, I think, to hit. So.
And now, Mayor, having Rich bring up the downtown revitalization plan, I would actually probably go off of that, of what that plan defines our downtown area as well, and morph it with somewhat the downtown overlay.
So then what I'm hearing is you guys are gonna be fine with this one tonight, or do you want to pull these first?
Mayor? I
This
think-
has nothing to do with that.
I
This is
think-
a completely different one.
No, I know, but these, I and Jay and,
Oh,
Well, they're meeting the context of what we do now,
Councilman
but I
Bundy?
think for the future, we don't. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll let you-
Councilman Brennan?
Mayor, I don't have any problem approving these solely because they're under the expectation of payment. And like I mentioned like before, I want to stop that. And if we put these kind of boundaries on the project associated with it, including a design standard, then maybe we can take it out of the need for the council to vote on it. Once it's like been set, then let his office run with it. I like it. I don't think we can stop it now. They're under the expectation of payment.
So you'll write that up, get a synopsis of what we can expect next council meeting and have something for the council, or do you want to?
It may not be ready for next council meeting, but I will get it done with the hopes of maybe the one after that, having a rough draft, something read up for you.
How's that? Thanks, Brock.
man.
Councilman McCain?
Can you by chance send that to us, Brock, before it comes to council?
Yes, I
'Cause I'd really like to look and see exactly where it's going, because we may want to go just a little bit further in one direction than another. So,
And I love that idea, because I think that's where we do our best work. I may suggest, since we are creating quasi legislation type documents, and I would want this cleared with legal counsel, is maybe I write something up and we have a short work session about what I have before I bring it to you. I don't know if that would be advantageous or not.
man,
Councilman
I
McCain?
wasn't necessarily meaning just a meeting, just to where we can kind of look at it. We all might be able to just look at it and go, yeah, that's big enough, or
Okay.
something, to where we don't necessarily have to have a meeting, but we can at least look at it, and if something is major, then we can respond back to you. But we should be able to take care of most of it, I would think, right at a normal meeting, rather than taking up your time to do the more of that.
Understood, Council.
But I think both of these are good for this, because especially the Learning Center, this really did a good job of making theirs look
Yeah,
good.
that does look
And it's on a main road going to downtown.
So,
So,
Councilman McCain, am I understanding that you would want it not just for solely downtown, but also maybe American Legion Air Base Road?
Well,
that
that would be
corridor
something that, well, don't we want our quarters coming into Mountain Home looking good too?
too? Right.
I
I
will
like it.
bring in various options.
Okay, good. Thanks, Brock. All right, Councilman, any other things on the consent agenda that you'd want to talk about? Pull,
Mayor?
Councilman Brennan?
Make a motion to pass the consent agenda with the modification to M for 30-year lease and everything else as printed.
Second. All righty, Councilman, if it's been motioned in second, I will call for the question. Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Bundy?
Aye.
Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
All righty, run down to item number 5, old business. There was none. Run down to item number 6, new business. Item from group consent agenda. There was none. Run down to discussion decision on planning and zoning commission. Recommendations to amend or repeal city code section 9-7-6C subsection 3, 9-7-6D, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 9-7-7C, 9-9-26, 9-13, and 9-8-3 subsection A. Action item. So, you want to?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Brock, this is your show.
All right. So the somewhat good news for you is the Planning and Zoning Commission, the actual table for further discussion about the zoning bulk and coverage, which is the densities, lot sizes, all of that. So we won't be deciding on anything about that today. We will also not be discussing PUDs, planned unit developments, as that body wants more information. It's hard for them to change what a PUD is when they've never even done one. So there's a learning curve there that we're getting along with them. However, the rest is all fair game today. So I believe the easiest way would be to just go one by one, vote on it, pass it. That would probably be the cleanest way. I believe that would be the easiest way for NINA as well.
Okay, so you want to start out with the 9-7-6C subsection 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any new discussion concerning that? Would you like me to go over that portion once more?
Yeah, give us a quick update.
So what this does is it eliminates the minimum allowable floor area for duplexes, which right now is 800 square feet within the R3 district. And it also eliminates the requirement for a PUD when 10% of those units will be duplexes or single attached family homes. So if I came in as a developer and I want to do a development of purely townhomes, I would have to come in with a PUD. What I'm recommending is that's not needed, that the townhome product is something that's favorable. They certainly have come a long ways, and that's not something a developer would need a PUD for. So the decision that you're making with that action is whether or not you want to have a floor area minimum, which is currently 800 square feet, and which will be discussed further within the bulk and coverage, which isn't going to be talked about today, and whether a PUD is needed when someone is going to do more than 10% of a development with duplexes and or townhomes.
Councilman Stokes?
Brock, does this help developers with pieces of property and help property rights within the town?
This helps expedite the current development timeline that we have, especially for these specific products. These are something that we're in desperate need of. Housing keeps on going up and up and up.
Does this help affordable housing?
It does help for affordable workforce housing. This helps it so people who are on more fixed incomes, first responders, teachers, people who grew up here in Mountain Home, who probably work in the trades, to be able to get into the housing market. That's one of the biggest barriers we have now, because the entry-level home is kind of no longer the entry-level home. You're having a 1,500 square foot home. The average price right now is around $230,000, $150 a square foot. If we can provide another way that they can at least get into the market so that they can build equity, that would be a great success for our citizens.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Bundy?
So when we're looking at your list here,
Yes, sir.
you were talking about they wanted some more information on PUDs. So were you just discussing number 2 on that list? Or?
So on this list right here, I am only discussing the R3 and the R4 district concerning duplexes, single family attached dwellings, and also townhomes. And the only portion of a PUD that I'm discussing is currently right now, if I was a developer and my project was to include more than 10% of townhomes, row homes, what have you, I would have to ask for a PUD.
Okay.
Which would then mandate me to go through planning and zoning, go through the hearing process, and then go through you, which adds a significant amount of time for the developer to create a project.
Councilman Stokes?
I make a motion to amend City Code Section 9-7-6 C subsection 3 as written.
Second.
All right. Council has no more questions. I'll call for the question. Motion second, I'll call for the question. Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Councilman Bundy? Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
All right, next one.
All right, the next one is very similar to the R3 district. This is everything the same, but for the R4 district, and then some added items. So right now within the R4 district, if you do more than 10% of townhomes, row homes, what have you, you have to come in for a PUD. Also, though, there is a requirement. So it's only in the R4 district where someone is able to do multifamily type products, which is generally a fourplex or more. If I own a singular piece of land, I have to come to you if I want to put multiple fourplexes or fiveplexes, what have you, on a single piece of land. If I'm a developer and I'm savvy, what I'll do, especially if it's a greenfield type project, is I'll subdivide and put them all on a different one. What staff is coming to you, being that multifamily type products need to go through a conditional use permit anyway, that this extra safeguard, being that you simply want to have them all on one single lot, isn't needed. Because essentially what we're doing with this ordinance right here is we're making them go through it twice. You're going to go through it once to just do multifamily at all, and then you're going to go through it again to ask to do it on one single lot instead of having all of them on different lots.
So it saves time, obviously, is worth money, but
Correct.
so they don't have to pay somebody to go out there and divide all those up into individual sections. So it's saving them money.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Councilman Stokes?
Roger, I have just one quick question about what does eliminating the maximum density requirement? What does that do?
Great question. So right now, the maximum density in the R4 district for a multifamily type dwelling is 20 per acre. In no other portion of our code do we have density standards. And as I mentioned before, during earlier trainings, our maximum density standards are protected with other components of development, which Mike is very familiar with. So even though we say, hey, you're allowed to have this X amount, you still have to get in the necessary landscaping. You still have to get in the necessary parking. There still has to be the setback there. You have to meet all of those other things, which are safeguards to make sure that all chaos doesn't really happen. So staff believes that it's not necessarily needed. It's more of a housekeeping issue for staff. Staff doesn't believe that this is a reason that people wouldn't want to come to Mountain Home. It's just,
Hang on 1 second. Sorry, bro. Getting ready. Don't take it personal, Brock.
Yeah, sorry, Brock, the computer just doesn't want to hear from me anymore.
I would take it personally.
it's all right because I do have a video that we can watch in the meantime.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So the purpose of this is more like a housekeeping item. I believe that we currently have regulations that protect us from the potential mitigating factors that would come into density, that I don't believe we have to say that this is the density standard. That the density can regulate itself with all of the other components of development that are currently needed per city code.
Councilman Brennan?
Just for clarification, are you saying multifamily starts at 4 plexes and above?
Yes.
Okay. I correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. I think you've seen a couple 3 plexes in town, like 6th and 10th. Is that's still not in this? That's like more like a duplex and not a multifamily.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Stokes?
I would like to make the motion to amend City Code Section 9-7-6 D subsections 3, 4, 5, and 6 as written.
Second.
Been motioned and second. I'll call for the question. Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Bundy?
Aye.
Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Councilman McCain?
Aye.
I was gonna call your name. I was like,
What's his name?
All right, next one, Brock.
All right, the next one is concerning height of residential fences. Currently, the maximum height is 6 feet. What staff is proposing is that it be allowed to a maximum of 7 feet. And if you want to go higher, if you have engineer stamped calculations concerning wind loads, that you are able to build to that maximum height. Currently in the International Residential Building Code, they do say that the maximum height is 7 feet. One of the concerns that we had during prior meetings was, are they going to blow over or not? Mike, having much experience as the building official, was the bearer of many of those phone calls. However, I believe we were able to speak about it, and we believe that the having a maximum of 7 feet as presented is satisfactory. And if you want to go higher, provide those calculations. However, I will note to have an engineer calculate for any higher than that for fences is very expensive. Not a lot of people do it.
Mayor, at the last meeting, did discuss it, and I said I would put an ordinance together for that. The more I thought about it and the more I've talked to people, that I thought that what I would do with council's permission, since I did say I'd go ahead and do that, would be just to put a suggestion together of how to build a 6, how to build a 7, and what depths they should be, if they should come into rock and whatnot, rather than on a $20 fence permit fee, send Hank out there twice to do something that the contractor should know how to do. We're in people's lives enough as it is. I think that would be, give the contractor a picture, say, here's what we recommend. If you want to follow it, you follow it. If you don't, not our problem. The owner's going to come back to you. So that's what I thought, discussed with Brock on that.
Councilman
So
Bundy?
that process be when they come in for the variance?
No, that would just be, if they come in for a 6 or 7, just the
Okay.
fence permit, here's what we'd recommend how you put it in. If you want to put it in, great. If you don't, that's fine, because all it'll be is just a picture showing 6-foot fence with these depths and stuff like that. Width of how far a post should be apart, 7-foot fences here, how deep they should be. Most people, anybody can pull it off the internet. It'll show you what they should be, but a lot of people won't. So if we have something available that they can look at, maybe they'll build it that way, maybe they won't, but we need to stay out of it, really.
Councilman Brennan?
I thought I heard something in the last meeting, and now I think I'm wrong, but let me just ask. I thought we weren't gonna allow the 8-footers, 7 maximum when it's built to standard, not engineered, but built to that standard. Am I totally wrong?
So what I can say,
8-footers.
sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead.
So what staff is presenting right now with this one, and I don't know what was discussed previously, is that you can have up to 7 feet just with your basic fence permit. If you want to go higher, that is allowable per the building official, but you have to have stamped engineered calculations concerning the installation of that fence.
Okay. To any height?
Any height past that 7, you have to have stamped engineered calculations, because that's when wind load becomes a significant factor with that construction. And we believe that it's the city's responsibility. Like, we want to let people practice within reasonableness, private property rights, and being able to magnify whatever type of use they want to pursue. But we also want to protect their next door neighbor from having a fence blow over in a windstorm, which I believe this is what the councilman is getting at, that he wants to provide some sort of recommendations, not necessarily mandate them, because unfortunately, I don't think we have the organizational capacity to ensure that everyone's doing the right thing, but at least we can provide them with the tools. So out of their own gumption, hopefully they will do the right thing when they install a fence, because it's in everyone's best interest not to have a fence blown into the road.
So likely, we won't get any or very few requests for higher than 7 feet.
I can speak to my experience when I was a city planner for the city of Twin Falls for 2 years. No one ever did a fence over the 7 feet, just because it is very costly to have an engineer stamp your calculations for the wind loads for that fence. Because,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, no.
No, I was just gonna say, it can cost anywhere from a minimum of $2,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 to get a fence, engineered for that.
And it's based on the
There's
region.
not too many people that are just gonna go put that kind of money in to go that extra foot.
Which Mountain Home does have significant wind, and that would also be calculated within that cost.
Councilman Bundy's a big meanie to me, and I want a 10-foot. And I pay the 10,000, I'm good to go, right? My permit stamp? I guess that's the question, right? If we have a 10-footer here, 6, 8, I think we're,
Yeah, I think about anything from 8 up should come back to the council for, because you'll get the one person that'll want a 12-foot fence. I mean, they want the mayor's fence.
oh, a wall with a moat.
For clarity, not 8 and above, 7.01 and
Above
above.
7.
Yeah, I mean, about 7 foot, yeah.
Okay.
And we can add that.
Okay.
But we can also add that also at the bare minimum, before coming to you, that they have to come. Well, I don't know. The order of operations, I believe, is important, because we want to be fair. And I don't want a citizen to go through the process of having an engineer stamp their stuff and then come to you and have this body potentially say no when they paid for like a multi-$1,000
No, you
fee
don't want
in order
go
to have
pay
it
first
stamped.
and then come.
So what staff would recommend to this body is making sure the order of operations is clear, stating that someone can come to you and then your approval is privy to them having it
Come to the
certified.
building official, and then building official
Mhm.
brings it to us.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Stokes. I make a motion to amend City Code Section 9-7-7C as written.
Timeout. Sorry.
Go ahead.
As written, that, you just added
We
something
did that.
to it.
As discussed.
As
All
discussed.
right. Okay,
I'll
which is
amend
the order of operations. That's
Mhm.
important.
And is there anything else, Councilman, on there that you want besides the stamps?
It's pretty clear that anything above 7 feet has to go through the process.
Yep.
I think that's already in there.
All right.
So for the sake of the record and for the sake of Nina sanity,
Too late.
the as written will have that the applicant, if they wish to build a residential fence higher than 7 feet, they will come to this body for approval. And then if this body approves that fence, it will be contingent upon them having stamped engineered calculations with their fence permit.
That the building official then will sign off on.
Correct.
Okay.
And
7 foot or for 8?
Over
Anything
seven.
over
anything
seven.
over
Over
7,
okay.
correct.
You said 4 7 foot. That's one there.
Over 7 foot.
So there's a motion that it go as written with the changes outlined for Brock. Do I have a second?
Second.
The motion is seconded. I'll call for the question. Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman King?
Aye.
Councilman Bundy? Aye. Councilman Stokes? All right. That was 9-7-7-2. Okay.
Correct.
All right, you're up again.
All right. The next one is concerning the downtown parking overlay map. When I came to this body, I showed you the map that we have currently illustrated within code doesn't provide a ton of clarity, and I wanted to make it more clear. However, in my findings, I also found that the current legal description that we have codified does not match the map illustration we have codified, which is kind of an issue. I believe if I was to have an applicant try to use the downtown overlay to their benefit today, I would contact Mr. Fitzer, and Mr. Fitzer would probably tell me to go by what the actual letter says. But I can see someone seeing the map and being like, hey, raising some sort of fit and having there be a conflict. So it's very important that those are harmonious with one another. Therefore, what staff would recommend to this body is to table this discussion altogether, because no matter what we do today, what was posted for a public hearing was to only amend the actual visual map, not the legal. So no matter what we do today, I would have to come back anyway. So what I would rather do is come back with everything being in harmony. So what staff is asking for this body today is direction of what you want the downtown overlay map to look like. Staff would make the recommendation that what we have proposed is what we would recommend. That's what the BSU parking study was done after. Whereas what we have currently, per the legal, really doesn't add any sort of benefit. You are able to see that Albertsons is in there. I don't know why Albertsons needs any sort of deviation from parking. It doesn't occupy a lot of the new downtown spaces we have, the hub, the brewery, Stoney's, restaurants that would really take the most value of having the downtown overlay. So
Mayor.
Sorry, go ahead.
The Albertsons parking lot, our Albertsons was brought into it because of the buildings on the outside.
Mhm.
Because there is not one of them in there that can meet any type of parking requirement.
understood.
That's why it came over and down and around to hit those.
Thank you, Councilman.
And then, Mayor, hang on a second. Can you clarify to me, like, East Fifth North to East Jackson, why Railroad Park, Taco John's would not be included in this, or can we add that into there?
That is certainly something that we can add in.
So like from here to here?
yeah, what staff is presenting is what staff would hope would at least be added in. Staff is open to having other portions added in, but I want to be aware of that study that was presented about the current occupancy rate that we have, just so we aren't adding in a ton of spaces that weren't part of that evaluation and aren't true to really we do have a significant amount of available parking downtown.
Well, I thought that evaluation did have railroad parking there.
So what staff can do, and I have looked at it, I would have to look at it once more, is I can look at it and see if it does have in it, and then come to you with a updated map per that document, and also a updated legal description, which are harmonious to one another for this body to pass.
Seems like there was an article in there, 'cause at the time that the study was done, that was owned by the railroad. And I do think there is a note in there of the potential for additional parking as we were able to procure railroad park, which we do. So it's gonna actually help our parking.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of that in there, and then that little addition right
Rancho.
there.
El Rancho.
Add
El Rancho on there.
On that, council, that's exactly right, Councilman, because there was no defined parking spaces, and they counted spaces, so, but that was in there with a note, as potential spots.
So, yeah, I think we should add that, Mayor. I think that's a good idea.
Okay, perfect. All right.
So we'll come back to it with this and railroad park, correct?
El Rancho.
That's what you're gonna put together and send out to us.
Yes.
From East Fifth North all the way to Jackson's, and then a little bit, and then the El Rancho.
Yep, I'm actually
Actually-
going to work together with Rich and John Matthews.
Modify that.
Yeah, and you also might want to do the stockyard. 'Cause- Right?
What staff will do is staff will bring forth a draft. Well, and I'll speak about it with each councilman prior to doing the legal for it also, and then we'll bring it back to this body at a date to be determined.
Roger that.
Thank you.
Councilman Brennan?
I'm just curious, maybe a legal question. What's the pro or con of putting city-owned property into this map? I'm just not educated on that matter.
Staff, permission for staff to speak to that, Mayor? The
This is your
benefit,
show.
the benefit of that, having city-owned property in that is basically the city gets to benefit the same way that any private entity would be able to benefit. Would that the city itself would not have to provide off-street parking for their uses and would be able to take advantage over the on-street parking options that are there. Now, the city may have some employees that may not be happy parking on the street a certain distance from their place of business, but the city would basically be on the same footing that other private businesses are around the same type of area.
So that would be this little chunk right here. Is that what you're talking about, Daniel? This where we're sitting?
No, I'm just asking, like, for the railroad park argument, and then the parking lot, El Rancho parking lot.
Mhm.
I'm not sure.
Or City Hall?
Correct.
Mayor,
Councilman McCain?
I'd like to make a recommendation to table the downtown parking overlay map 9-9-26 until Brock has time to put it together and bring it back to council.
Second.
I agree.
The motion is second. I'll call for the question. Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Bundy?
Hi.
All right, let's jump to 9-13.
All right. So currently within our city code, animated signs are prohibited. The definition of animated sign is much to what we believe an animated sign would look like today. Almost like a television that produces animated type content. However, our sign code does allow for a message board sign, which could also be construed per the current definition to be a lot like an animated sign. Therefore, what staff is recommending, based upon that the industry standard for animated signs has become a lot more popular, that the animated sign and the message board sign be basically considered the same. At this point in the discussion, if you have it, staff would actually point council to the language concerning message center and animated signs. There are requirements of development present, making sure that the animated signs that are being produced are not overboard, that they are actually combined with an actual permanent sign as well. So you can't have just a straight billboard, which is a single screen, that there has to be other permanent signage with it. So you wouldn't just have a screen, but you could have a screen then like City of Mountain Home above, so that there are permanent components always associated with the signage. Staff has chosen to treat this sign much like we do a regular freestanding pole sign. Per what I gave you, the handout concerning the sign chart of how we would treat the setbacks, placement, etc. I did not have that included with your packet, which I will get a copy of this to Nina early tomorrow, so it is available. But there's that portion as well. Essentially, what the passing of this would do would allow us to do animated message board type signage, which the city, we are interested in having gateway signage that do have messaging capabilities and animated capabilities to advertise different events, to advertise other things happening within the city. This would make those things legal, and would also, I believe, with the design details that I have within this portion, if you haven't already read it, make sure that they are tastefully presented in a way that shows what Mountain Home is and what we believe our characters should look like.
Councilman.
Mayor, I'll make a recommendation to approve sign regulation 9-13 to allow for animated signs.
Second.
The motion and second, I'll call for the question on 9-13. Councilman Stokes. Aye. Councilman Bundy.
Aye.
Councilman Brennan.
I'm not ready to vote yet. Can I ask you a question? I'm probably not, but,
Yeah, go ahead.
is there, I don't know that I saw all the language on it, but is there any requirement for the council to approve said signs?
No, this type of signage would be outright permitted. I do have safeguards. So for instance, this type of sign cannot be associated with a residential use, only non-residential uses. So you can't have a residential property construct this type of sign. There are other restrictions such as where it can be a lot of safety concerns as well. And also that it will not intrude negatively in certain public spaces that staff would be left to determine. We do have those in there, but there currently is not a provision that these type of signs would come to this body.
So you have to forgive my law enforcement brain. I apologize. But what about the content of these signs? Like you said, they're TV screens, and I know we can't like censor everything, but I do get worried that at someday there's going to be a business or whatever that will put highly negative things on their board.
I will yield this time to legal counsel, who is very schooled in signs and also with content, what we can regulate, what we can't regulate, and it does get sticky.
Can I ask council a question before I goes into this?
Councilman Bundy.
Before I go in there,
Are these gonna be the same type of restrictions that we do for a regular billboard? Do we have the same type of regulations? You see what I'm saying?
I don't know, there are regulations on billboards.
Currently,
So, I mean, but I'm just curious, because it's a good question. Are these gonna be the same things when people put up a billboard going, just a regular billboard? Are they similar type of, like, is the conversation similar between an animated billboard and a paper billboard?
they should be identical. They should
Okay,
be treated
that
the
was
same.
my question, thank you.
And to answer your question, the legal standards in attacking one's First Amendment rights to have a sign, et cetera, change depending on whether, and here's the magic words, cities have a reasonable basis to regulate the time, place, and manner of signs. To go beyond time, and so that's a reasonable a rational basis test, which is the easiest thing for us to pass. I'm saying you can't have it be, the sign has to be this size only. You can't have lights all over. It can't do this. Where we start to get into a slippery slope of danger, where we have to have an important governmental objective, and this is the least intrusive means to regulate it, is when we start regulating the content of the message itself. So that's where we start to get ourselves into trouble. So most of what Brock has proposed here, it's all time, place, manner stuff. And that's safe. I've taught a number of classes on this subject where cities get into trouble real fast on saying you yes, you no, and it's not for time, place, and manner.
So language is not.
Yeah, don't go after the language itself unless it's truly advocating hate crimes or something like that. Otherwise, you stay away from the message.
And then what is the regulation for printed billboards that you said this should be exactly the same? Is that a law, or is that
Yeah,
you would the billboard company saying we're not going to put that on our billboard?
that's up to them. If the billboard company refuses to do a message that somebody wants to put on it, that's fine. But we would regulate the size and place where billboards can be. So, you don't want, last gas 300 miles, last gas 299 miles, that kind of goofy stuff. Where we would say, no, we don't want, places like Ketchum or Breckenridge, Colorado was pretty popular in a lawsuit because they just said McDonald's can't have their arches. We don't want certain billboards or certain things to be on it. It has to be our tasteful ski town look. So it was going after the aesthetics. And so that was okay. And billboards would be the same. Billboards could be only of a certain size and certain places in town with certain zoning regulations, that kind of thing.
Okay.
One thing we also have to deal with is most of the signs that are going up is on an ITD corridor, and ITD has a big say in what type of lights can be on it. They can't emulate a police car or anything like that, and how far that has to sit back. They control a lot on their corridor.
I forgot about that. So we can regulate it, but they still have to go get an ITD permit if it's on the state highway.
And, sorry, Mayor,
Go ahead, you're fine.
based on the councilman's comment, that probably wouldn't be a terrible thing to add. That with their sign application, they do have to have a signed approval by ITD.
It's
If it's on
city
their
policy, but it wouldn't hurt just to be in there that
corridor.
has to come along with the application, because we have had problems back there with them coming in, wanting to approve the sign and us going, where's your ITD permit to show that they're okay with it? Oh, well, I'm not gonna get one from them. They don't, it's none of their business. Oh, yes, it is. Go get it and then come back and talk to us. But
I like that.
that
like
wouldn't be a bad habit as a procedure for them to give it to us first.
Mayor, which one would come first, approval wise? The city or the state would approve it and then the city?
We'd want them,
State first.
we want theirs coming to us, so when we issue one, we know it's gonna conform with theirs, because theirs is a lot more stricter.
Because what will happen is we will issue the building permit and they won't do what they're supposed to do, and then they'll build it. And then ITD will come in after the fact when we have an actual structure. So having them get the approval first would be the best order of operation.
Yeah, add that in there.
Yeah, I'd just make that city policy or put it on their city policy, sign permit on ITD corridor, ITD permit required to, city of Pitt permit.
All right, so we have a yay. Want me to go to Councilman McCain first?
Well, would the maker of the motion be willing to amend the motion to include this latest discussion?
You wanna?
Yeah, I agree.
We'll articulate the new verbiage motion.
Yeah, I'll add that to my motion.
Your call question. All right, Mike, his motion is second. Thank you.
My motion is to approve the sign permit with the discussion that we just had,
ITD first.
ITD first, then the city, so,
Okay, on the state corridor.
on the state corridors, yes.
It's been motioned and second. I'll call for the question. Councilman Stokes. Aye. Councilman Bundy.
Aye.
Councilman Brennan.
Aye.
Councilman McCain.
Aye.
All righty. 9-8-3A.
All right, Mayor. This portion is about the required street construction and expansion. So as I pointed out prior, currently we have multiple infill brown fill type lots within the city, which are very difficult to develop. One of the reasons that they are difficult to develop is when someone wants to build a building, they don't only have to pay for the building, but they have to improve the overall site. One of those site improvements is rebuilding half of the existing roadway from center line, which if you have a smaller lot, that requirement alone kills any sort of project. What staff is presenting is that in certain circumstances that requirement be waived. They still need to make sure that the sidewalk, curb, gutter, everything is up to standard. But if there is a roadway there, that they don't necessarily have to expand it. And one thing that staff would add to this that isn't as presented is that the requirement that a existing roadway already be there. So currently what I am proposing is that you do not have to build from center line when your property is less than a half acre, or if you have less than 235 feet of total street frontage. But what I failed to write in there is that there has to be an existing road, because I don't want someone not building a road when there isn't a road at all. Understood?
I guess my question is so if I have a piece of property and there's already a road there,
Mhm.
you're not making me take out, redo half of it.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. And then if I have a half acre lot and have a dirt road and I'm coming onto a city street, you don't have to at least.
You would have to build the road.
Okay.
That there has to be a actual road currently there.
When this ordinance was first put in place, that was the actual intent. If there was a road there, you didn't have to fix it. It was the ones that we were having in town that there was no road in front of the place. It was a dirt road. To where that's what it was, but making it plain, that's a good deal.
Okay. What's the verbiage gonna be for the understanding? Councilman Bundy, what's the verbiage gonna be for that additional part that you're suggesting?
The verbiage is going to be the requirement to reconstruct or expand streets from center line would not apply when there is a existing street already constructed.
Okay.
And then the rest of the recommended language.
Rich, did you have something?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Council, just so, and I just kind of making sure that, like, let's take Morning View, for example, when Smith Road, that they had to go all the way out half of Smith Road to kind of widen it to make it bigger. That still is included.
Mhm.
So this is just a smaller parcel, like that one on the corner of 18th or something like that. So, like where they just put the taco truck, he would have had to do 3 sides of the road.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but if it's a bigger parcel that needs to do something, then yes, we will make them do that.
Mayor, Councilman Brennan.
When you talk to road, you're also including like paving of the road, right?
Correct.
I can't really picture this in my head with the city, but something that pops into my mind is with like his department, with water and sewer lines. We as a council have approved people to, and this is for like annexation, I think. When they come in, they don't have to hook up to the system right now, but when the system gets out to them, then they're responsible to immediately hook up. Is that so?
I thought once the failed system, current failed system.
What you need repaired.
Yeah. Right.
So like if we're looking like at a wastewater, so they have a septic, they could keep their septic, but once it fails, they have to come in.
Once it fails.
Curb gutter and sidewalk was where, oh, Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Councilman.
Curb gutter and sidewalk is what we had on annexations, that there may not be curb gutter and sidewalk for either side of them. And it may be a mile down the road. So putting in a curb gutter and sidewalk where no elevation heights are set or anything, there's no point in putting it in, because by the time they get there, it's probably not going to be where it needs to be anyway. But that's what we put off until from where it's at gets to you, then you have to put it in. for that.
Mike, on this topic, the city's like so small and we're not talking like annexation, but would that apply in this circumstance where we say, you don't have, you're so far out there, but you are in city limits, you don't have to pave half the road until the road gets to you. And then you do have to pave it. You're the section in front of your business.
So this would only apply for bare pieces of land or where new development wants to happen, where they are on a half acre or less, or they have less than 235 linear feet of street frontage.
Less than all that,
Yeah.
then it applies.
Yeah, then it applies. And if there is an existing roadway that they are next to, they don't have to rebuild that and or expand it from center line. However, what Rich was mentioning, if we have a new subdivision like Morningside come in, or if someone's doing a subdivision, a greater type of development, yes, you're going to pay to rebuild it. Because the point I brought out, the fine line and what staff wants to make sure of is we want to motivate these small lots within our city to be built upon. And we don't want the road reconstruction to be the singular factor of why they're not built. But what I don't want to do is pass the buck off of our overall street maintenance for developers who have more than enough money to do what they need to do. And that's the tightrope we're walking.
And that was more my concern. We have a huge developer that comes and builds 150 homes. He should pay for that wear and tear on that current street. You know?
Correct.
So get it up to that 150 pedestrians or homes going through on that street. Go ahead, Rich.
An example right now would be Silverstone, they're putting that last street right there. They're gonna have to go out to the center line and all the way to the end and fix that last little piece, so.
Mayor, the perfect example what Brock is talking about is at the one lot being on the 3rd and 15th, behind Bourbon Solos. There's a full road on 3rd there with curb and gutter. There's no sidewalk. They'd be required to put sidewalk in, but the curb and gutter, what they would have to do is cut their access to the property, fix it, but they wouldn't have to go in, tear out a perfectly good road and then put it back in again.
But they will put in curb gutter.
The curb and gutter is most of these places
Sidewalk.
where the road is already in, curb and gutter is there because there's no place for the road to go to if the curb and gutter is not already there.
I meant sidewalk, I'm sorry.
But right, and they'd have to put their sidewalk in at the time of their building permit.
Councilman Stokes?
I make a motion to amend City Code Section 9-8-3-8, as we discussed,
With the additional verbiage.
with the additional verbiage.
Second.
Motion and second, I'll call for the question. Yeah, Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan? Aye. Councilman Buddy? Aye. Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
All right. Any final comments, Councilman? Councilman Stokes?
I was curious if we could have the fiber team in and give us kind of an update on how things are going and what city buildings we got done so we can continue forward with that project.
Mayor,
Councilman Brennan?
on that note, I could have stopped in and asked the question, but did our contractor get their public utility license?
You did.
Okay.
I was sweating.
So they're on track to get started?
Yep, they were out there today, marking out all the potholes, marking out, I guess they called 811? Big line.
Big line.
Yeah. Like, I know the name, they were out there today marking out all their stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, good. I hope
They're
so. They may go. I didn't want to tell you. I told you so.
Yeah, and they're bringing 4
It's
crews,
fun every once in a while.
bringing 4 crews. Councilman Bundy?
I know you're gonna talk about this, but we had the soft opening of the skate park a month or so ago, and we had the official opening with a competition. There were hundreds of people there having a great time. It was a good event. It's a good addition to the city. I'm hearing lots of positive feedback from parents and older kids and teaching younger kids how to skate and bike, and it's just been a really great addition to our, kind of the city personality, I guess. It's awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna jump on your bandwagon, but I will.
Okay.
It was, it's exciting. I went and Tiffany did a phenomenal job, got a bunch of swag, got a bunch of freebies, let everybody hand out stuff. From the parents I talked to, they were just ecstatic. It's kind of cool to see the younger kids and the older kids, and then it's funny to see the parents out there riding, you know, so it was good. And Tiffany did a good job with the sign. It shows the lineage. Hopefully we didn't screw anything up on it. And we you know, I want to thank all the council and past council, past people that worked on it. It was just a good team effort, and that's why, and then Jamie getting the grant, which was cool, and letting her cut the ribbon was pretty historic for her, I think, and that's just an all around good win for Mountain Home. So I can't say anything more than it's great. We did get another grant. Tiffany got me a grant for the skate park, which we just added electrical. So then you'll be able to charge your phones, your iPads, whatever. Hopefully soon, with this broadband stuff, we'll light up Richard Gary Park, Stone Tree Park, Legacy Park with free Wi-Fi for anybody that don't have it at their house. But Richard Gary Park will have it there. So if you're just a parent reading your Kindle or surfing the internet, you can go there and then, like I said, we'll let the people charge their charging station, or it won't be a charging station per se, but at least you'll be able to charge your phone and do your homework. And I think that at the end of the day, if we get that done and have the kids do that, that's a good thing. So, but yeah, good team effort. And I just thank you all. That day, it brings joy to the heart to see everybody having a good time. And like I said, Tiffany, Miguel, the whole team, Todd, and Parks and Rec crew. I mean, Tiffany's staff, they killed it. Can't say anything more than they did a great job. Other than that, I have nothing else. Councilman Buddy?
If there's no other final comments, I will make a motion that we go into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code Section 74-2061C to acquire an interest in real property which is not owned by a public agency.
Second.
Been motion and second. I'll call for the question. Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Buddy?
Aye.
Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
All right. All right. The session.